Good morning, Las Vegas. Welcome to the Patricia Cunningham Show. Thank you for joining me this morning. I have a special guest in the studio, and I believe Frank Hawkins is on his way. But we're going to be talking with Danny Tarkanian. He's a Republican candidate for Nevada's 4th Congressional District. I want to welcome him to the show. First-time guest on my show. Good morning, Danny.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Patricia, for having me on. I really look forward to our discussion.
You're very welcome. And certainly it has been quite a buzz in this community that you're running against Stephen Horsford. And I want to talk about a lot of the things. Most importantly, I want to talk about those things you think are most important to the voters, and we'll be getting into that. But I've got to start out with the very thing that we were all hoping it wouldn't come to almost always happens when you have an African-American candidate and a white candidate. And I want to talk to you and get some questions answered about the issue that was raised. I believe it was an interview that you had, and you were asked, in fact, I want you to tell us what the question was that you were answering that made you mention the basketball academy. Let's start there.
It was a very benign answer, but first of all, let's qualify and understand how politics work. Both sides, unfortunately, I think for us, the Democrat side is a little bit better at it, but both sides try to take whatever you say, twist them around, and try to create a story from them. And most of the times, they don't get picked up by any credible networks and media outlets, and they die down, and like this one had done. But I had an interview with the Review Journal board, the editorial board, and they'd asked me, this district has a. That's the special guest today. That's my son Jerry Tarkanian is with me today. So if you hear any noises, that's my little boy. But anyways, I had an interview with the editorial board with the Review Journal, and they asked, this district has a lot of minorities in the district. What is your plan on going out and winning this race and getting enough votes to do so? And I talked about the Hispanic community, and I talked about the African American community, and I said, I think we're going to do well there. My mother and father have worked within that community for a long period of time. They are well respected, and I think that's going to help me. I said, I have a basketball academy that's just outside the district that has many people, participants in that academy that live within this community, and I think that's going to help me because we've done a good job. It's a nonprofit group to work with those kids in the academy. And I said I have some business leaders and community leaders within the African American community, such as Frank Hawkins, who is the president of the NAACP, who's out support me, and I think that will help me. And that was my statement. And then all of a sudden, the Democrat Party runs out and says I was making stereotype statements about basketball and so forth. But, that's such a non-issue to what's important in this race that all you do is you let them run with that. Whoever's talking about it are really the people that are very partisan anyways. It's not going to be anything that makes up the mind of any undecided voters. I just let it go, and we don't worry about it. We're going to talk about what's really important to the people in this community. That's the jobs, that's the economy. And that's getting people back to work so they can pay for their homes and whatever other expenses they have for their families.
The black elected officials issued a statement, and that statement was that your use, and I'm quoting, your use of patronizing stereotypes has no place in American politics today. The African-American community and African-American voters will support candidates who focus on creating jobs, cracking down on abuses of Wall Street, and protecting Social Security and Medicare, not the kind of rhetoric of centuries past.
Yeah, and because of that, if that statement is accurate, I look forward to getting a substantial number of votes here in the African-American community, because that's what my campaign has talked about, creating jobs here. We do need to crack down on what happened through Wall Street and the crisis in the housing area. And what was the third one? You said all three of them fit in perfectly with my campaign, and I look forward to that discussion.
Social Security and Medicare.
And Medicare, exactly. We believe the Medicare issue, the position I have, will protect and preserve Medicare for years and years to come, while my opponent's position on Medicare will wipe it out in 12 years. It'll be completely bankrupt. Including the fact that my opponent has come out and said, hey, he believes Obamacare was a great thing for the people in our country in this district. And Obamacare takes $716 billion out of Medicare, much of which is Medicare Advantage, which the seniors rely upon to cover the additional costs of Medicare. They take $716 billion out of that program. and they think that Republicans are hurting Medicare. And the second part of the Obamacare that's so bad, which my opponent again supports, is it appoints 15 unelected bureaucrats. They're going to get together and determine what kind of processes and expenses can be allocated for Medicare recipients. They're basically going to manage the type of health care treatment seniors can have. Now, if you think and if you feel that's the kind of Medicare program you want as a senior, then vote for my opponent. But if you believe, as I do, that I think that we should have everybody who wants to be in Medicare. First of all, I believe that we shouldn't raid Medicare $716 billion. But I believe what Paul Ryan has said is anybody 55 and older will have Medicare as it is today. Anybody 55 and under can still have Medicare the way it is today. But they also have an option of purchasing private insurance, just like the congressmen and the senators have. You can have the same type of insurance as they have under the Paul Ryan plan. So you get the choice of staying in Medicare, or the choice of having the same type of insurance as your elected leaders or any other insurance you have out there. What would be wrong with that? Who would be against that? And for any of the listeners out there, if you think having the difference of those two choices isn't right, then you may want to look at my opponent, because that's his position.
Now, the argument that we've been hearing is that the $716 million is being taken out by both plans, by the Ryan plan and by Obamacare. The issue is how that money is being used and how it's being refunneled in there. So what is the difference then in what Obamacare is doing with it and what the Ryan plan is doing with it?
Well, the Obama plan says they're taking $716 billion and they're going to take it away from doctors. Billion, and they're going to take it away from the doctors and their pay. Now, look what happens when you do that. Already, reimbursements to doctors under the Medicare program are lower than the average. So doctors already are hesitant to take Medicare recipients. If you cut their pay more, the top doctors aren't going to perform services for Medicare recipients. And at some point, you're going to run the best people who want to get into the medical profession out of it because they don't get compensated enough. I'm not sure about Ryan's deduction of Medicare. I hear the rhetoric on the Democrat side, but I don't see any proof to substantiate that. I signed a pledge 2 days ago that says I will preserve Medicare as it is today for the current enrollees, and I will do that. We're not going to raid Medicare under any plan that I vote for, and I've made that perfectly clear.
647-3688 if you'd like to call in. We've got a couple of callers on the line, so we're going to go to the phone lines. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you today, Patricia?
Very good. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Go right ahead.
I have three quick questions for Mr. Tarkanian. One is I would like to know why it is that you say that the NAACP has endorsed you. I was at the meeting last week, and they specifically said they do not endorse. You haven't said Frank endorses you. You have said the NAACP endorses you, which is not true, sir. Secondly, I think it's shameful that the NAACP hasn't issued a statement rebuking you on that. And thirdly, what exactly do you mean when you say that Stephen Horsford is pretending to be black, and how dare you? Yeah. Thank you, Patricia.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, what was his name?
I didn't get his name. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but the caller is so misguided. It's hard to even address his issues. The first thing he's misguided for is he says that there were three questions, and he gave me two, and I'll answer both of them. Never have I said the NAACP endorses me. I think he's read too many tweets from the Democrat Party, and some of them, and he believes tweets. And if you do that, then you really can't address any reasonableness. I've always said that Frank Hawkins, who is the president of the NAACP, endorses me, and Frank does, and he'll be here and he'll discuss that. It's unfortunate this guy would get on the radio and try to mislead the listeners like that. Second of all, never said Stephen Horsford pretends he's black. Again, that is something that was taken out of context. I made an inarticulate statement that allowed the other side to take that statement out of context, and they're trying to run with that. But what they did was they left out the part that I said right after Stephen Horsford. The part that I said was that Stephen Horsford ignores the African American community, and then we talked about, and he still expects their vote. And that was what I was trying to get across. I think that the people of this community, if you're happy with the 8 years of what Stephen Horsford has done for this community, he's been the state senator for 4 and the majority leader for almost 4 now. And if you're happy with what he's done for this community, then I would expect you to vote for him. But as I go throughout this community, gone and talked to business leaders and community leaders, they tell me they've never seen him out here, that he doesn't come out here and support the positions. I've talked to state legislators from this community that say that they've tried to get bills passed through here, but Stephen Horsford hasn't been receptive to them. So if that's the case and you feel that he hasn't been receptive to them, I don't believe he's going to get those votes. If you have a candidate out there like myself that's going to go out here and actively engage with the voters and show them that I care, and then I'm going to try to work within that community. And that's what I meant by that statement.
Let me go back to the beginning, though. Was the phrase used, what should we do, pretend that we're black like Stephen Horsford? Was that said?
You got to take the whole context. Yes, it was said, those words are said, but the caller said, I said Stephen Horsford pretended he was black. That is not what I said. As I said to you, what I said was Stephen Horsford ignored the African American community. He's, over the years, from what I've seen from the different people we've talked to, and he still expects their vote. And that I said that we could take the same approach as him, just ignore the community and expect their vote, but that's not what is best for the community and not best what we're going to do.
Let's go back to one of the first things that the caller mentioned, twofold, and Frank Hawkins has joined us, and he probably didn't get a chance to hear the beginning of the caller's statement. And he asked Danny, why did he say in a public forum that the NAACP endorsed him? Because the caller knew for a fact that the NAACP did not, and he wanted to know why the NAACP has not rebuked him for making that incorrect, dishonest statement.
I heard the caller, and I know the caller. The caller's the head, got some position within the Democratic Party. Now, are we going to play politics, or are we going to talk about what Danny Tarkanian wants to do for the community? So he doesn't know what the NAACP has done. Period. And the NAACP does not support any candidate, Democrat or Republican, publicly, non-publicly. They don't endorse. Frank Hawkins can do whatever he wants, and Frank Hawkins is doing that. The question should be, and I'm not posing this question to you, but if Frank Hawkins is not supporting the Democratic candidate, something ought to be wrong. Something is wrong, and the people need to hear that. But I'm here to talk about and support Danny Tarkanian. We can, if you want to beat up on Stephen Horsford, bring Stephen Horsford here. But I'm here to talk about why we won't need to elect Danny Tarkanian.
And I think we're all kidding ourselves if we don't address the very questions that the community is asking themselves, because when they go to the polls, those will be the things that they're thinking about. And I think they need to be addressed. So just to make sure, we're going to clear it up. The NAACP does not endorse any candidate and has not in this race. Yep. Frank, as an individual, has endorsed him in this race.
Correct.
But here's the question that the people in the community have asked themselves, and I don't think, Danny, this doesn't fall on you. This is not your responsibility, but it's Frank's. The question that the people have asked themselves and each other is, if you are the president of the NAACP and you endorse a candidate who happens to be white over a black candidate who has been representing the community, does it not send the message, right or wrong? Doesn't it infer to people that the NAACP is endorsing him? And is it intended to send the message, more importantly, that the organization is not endorsing Senator Horsford?
I'm not endorsing Senator Horsford.
But it has nothing to do with the organization.
And the organization supported Harry Reid. Nobody complained about that. The organization, Frank Hawkins supported Harry Reid. Nobody complained about that, about the fact that I was the president of the NAACP. I supported and support Barack Obama. Nobody's complaining about I'm the president of the NAACP. So the real issue is politics. But I'm going to believe that the people out there are smart enough to understand the politics. Because you know what? They should know the people they elect. The people who, people keep saying, oh, well, he's going to do something different tomorrow. He's going to make these changes. You know what? The best barometer for what happens tomorrow is what happened today, yesterday, and the day before. Period.
647-3688 if you'd like to call in. I'm sitting here with Frank Hawkins and the congressional candidate for District 4, Danny Tarkanian. And Danny, I want you to be able to talk to the listening audience about some of the things you think are most important to the constituents. What is it that you will bring to the community? How do you think you will better serve the community than Stephen Horsford?
We're going to talk about what I want to do within this community. We'll leave Stephen out right now, and when we have our debates, I look forward to discussing that with him. I haven't seen him on the record on any solutions yet, and that's what we really want to talk about in today's time and all the problems we're facing. What solutions can we have to the incredible economic collapse that we have going on right now? When and I don't mean to get back into Stephen Horsford, but when he took office in 2004, we were the #1 economy in the business by the Business Journal, the whole country, #1. Now we're 51st. Something along the line besides, and that was in 2004, something besides just the economic collapse is keeping Nevada down. While the rest of the country has started to see an uptick and you're seeing the job markets be lower and lower, Nevada still remains at the top highest unemployment, the highest foreclosures, the highest bankruptcies. We need to have changes and substantive changes. Now, I've talked about a few specific things with job creation. We'll talk about nationally first, and then I'll get into some things specifically, and then some things locally, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Nationally, we should be energy independent in this country. I dare anybody to stand up here and say, we can't. We have the energy available to us, and it's not just the green energies. We have energy available with the new shale oil and gas reserves that would supply America with its own self-serving, sufficient energy for 200 years. Why aren't we utilizing that? If we did, we would create millions of jobs, billions of dollars in tax revenue, and we'd save hundreds of billions of dollars from going overseas to countries that many of them aren't friendly with us. It's a no-brainer. We should be doing that. But we're being held back because of the regulations that are being imposed and the restrictions being imposed by certain agencies under this current administration. Second thing we need to do is we need to improve and modernize our infrastructure. And I believe that we should invest in roads, bridges, dams, and the information highway, but not the way the current administration has done, where the federal government will tell the people of Nevada, hey, if you do this project, we'll give you back a small portion of your tax funds. For example, the Department of Transportation spent $500 million to beautify the off-ramp on the I-215 building, and they asked the head of the department, why would you spend the money on that as opposed to something else that would have been much more efficient for us? And they said, because that's what the federal government required us to do to get our money back. My proposal would be give the money back to the state, give this money back to the state of Nevada, and let Governor Sandoval and the Department of Transportation then determine which projects they think are the best to utilize and allow them to get started with them immediately. Here locally, we can do a few things that can help improve our business. I've talked about utilizing the $12 billion that we spent on Yucca Mountain, not as a storage facility, but we can use it as a reprocessing facility if you want that. If the people in Nevada aren't in favor of that, we can use it as the largest data storage facility in the whole world. There's some people looking at utilizing that. If that doesn't work, we can turn it into the world's largest military facility because it has the same terrain as the war on terrorism we're fighting. The key is, though, you get creative with what assets we have here in the state to create jobs here in the state. We spent $12 billion on Yucca Mountain. Let's use it for something. Even if it's a military training facility, it's going to create jobs here in our state, and it's worthwhile. And there's another approach, and I was asked yesterday when I spoke to the Women's Chamber of Commerce, why aren't we doing more to get the film industry here? Well, we have hundreds of acres of prime commercial property on South Las Vegas and other areas in Nevada that are being held by the BLM. The BLM is only supposed to hold environmentally sensitive acres. Why are they holding this property that we can release back to the state, giving it to Governor Sandoval and his economic team, and allow them to come into the state and go out and bring an industry that's leaving another part of the country, California or somewhere else, and move into Nevada with a very, very low cost basis. And I'll give you an example. Boeing was leaving the state of Washington. They wanted a state with the right to work, low business regulations and taxes, and they wanted to move to another state, and they went to Georgia. Why wasn't Nevada first on the list? We're closer. We have low business taxes. We have right to work state. We needed to give them something that nobody else can give them, and that's prime commercial property that's sitting vacant that the state of Nevada doesn't get any use out of. Mm-hmm. So that's the state issues. How can we do something here locally in Congressional District 4 to help create jobs here in this district? And this is where we're really failing as a state, because this is the highest unemployment rate in the whole state is here in Congressional District 4. Well, the first thing we should be doing is I will work with Congressman Barlow, and I'm going to try to get another, and use whatever influence I have, to get another district here, improvement district here in this area. They just gave another improvement district in Ward 1, where they allow certain tax breaks and credits to encourage business development in that area. Why haven't we done one in this area that would help bring new jobs here? Councilman Barlow does a great job trying to work within this community and help create jobs here. I'm going to work with him, and we're going to try to get an area in here designated for that. Second thing is I'm already working with a large company here that's going to create 750,000 square foot facility. That's going to be one of the largest manufacturing. It's one of the largest manufacturing companies in the country, and they want to build a 750,000 square foot facility here. I'm working with them right now to help them locate it right here in West Las Vegas, where they'll create jobs. They'll create jobs with the industry, jobs when permanent, and they'll create tax revenue for the state. Their biggest holdup is the regulations that are strangleholding them from getting started. And they said, Danny, if you get elected in Congress, if you help us through this stuff, we're going to build it right here in West Las Vegas. Those are the things that I can bring as a congressman back to this district, and those are the things we should be talking about, not what this call did.
We have many Latinos that have moved into this very community. What is your position on immigration and on the Dreamers?
As I have stated over and over again, I've been consistent with it. I think it's a simple policy. You have 4 things that should be done. And again, these are common sense solutions that when you look back, they're really reasonable solutions. One, you need to protect the borders to make sure not only people that are coming in the country are coming in legally, but also any contraband or other type of illegal activities. I think everybody would agree with that. 2 is I think we need to make sure that we revise the INS laws, that if people want to come into our country legally, they're allowed to do so quicker, faster, more expediently, and quite frankly, cheaper. We have jobs that need to be filled by legal immigrants, and we should provide a way for them to get in here and fill those jobs. Why hasn't the INS laws been changed through the decades that we've been arguing this issue? Because I don't believe the politicians want it to be changed. They want to use this as a political tool during election time to use it against each other. So that's the second thing. The third thing is I don't believe that if you're in the country illegally that you should be getting taxpayer benefits. I think that's and obviously you need emergency medical treatment, certain things like that, but that's another thing. But those are ideas that if the people in Washington really wanted to change the immigration laws and do what's the right thing for not only the people who want to come here legally, but for businesses and the communities here in our country, they can do so. The question is, why aren't they doing that?
Well, what is your objection, though, to work permits for 2 years for young people that came here as children?
Yeah, I think I'm all in favor of getting work permits for anybody here who comes in, which under whatever regulations we lay out for them. The problem I see is the type of regulations that we have that make it so difficult for people to do it the right way.
647-3688 if you'd like to call in. We're going to go back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, before you actually was calling, this is Gene Collins.
Okay.
And I've been listening to Danny, and I've been listening to Frank, and I've been listening to the conversation. First of all, I got issues with Danny on the healthcare thing, the $716 billion. Now, he knows that the $716 billion what the president did do, those are gimmies from the oil company, from substitutes.
A vast virus database has been updated.
That money would be put right back in to senior citizens and everything. Now, he mentioned everything about the jobs and everything, but the first thing you have to do is where you going to get the land from? You're going to put a faculty in West Las Vegas. Okay, where's the land? Where are you going to do this? And then you mentioned the congressman, you mentioned a barlow, just like throwing spaghetti on the wall. But the thing is, what I take issues with is knowing what the facts are and then go on the radio and misrepresent the truth. Now, I'm not going to get on to who Frank is going to support, who Frank is not going to support. I'm not going to talk about Stevens. I'm not going to do any of it. But I'm talking about a guy who's running to represent us, getting on TV, knowing about the health care thing. Now, if you have, I want everybody to listen to this. If you have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, if you on dialysis, and President and Congressman and Senator Horsley does not get reelected, if you have all of those preconditions, guess what? You are going to die because sickness, you're supposed to treat them. And if you does not have the money to get the treatment, you are going to die if you have those preconditions. So for a guy to get on the radio and say, okay, $716 billion, that was nothing but talking points, and he knows those talking points are wrong. And that's all I have to say.
Gene, it was good hearing from you. I've known you for a long time. I'm surprised that you would take that approach, and I'm sure that you understand where the $716 billion come from. We were talking about Medicare, and Medicare, we're talking about Medicare and the $716 billion that will be raided from the Medicare program currently under Obamacare. And that's not a disputed fact. The Democrats admit that $716 billion will come out of that. Their argument is it will come out of reimbursements to doctors and hospitals. And I'm saying, how much more less can you pay the doctors who are already paid less under Medicare? You keep lowering the amount that you're going to pay those doctors. You're going to drive the good doctors away from taking Medicare recipients, and you're going to drive other doctors who don't want to get in the profession anymore. With respect to subsidies to the oil company, I've come out very strongly against subsidies to the oil companies. So I'm not in favor of that. I know that's a talking point the Democrats like to use against Republicans, but I try to have common sense solutions. And one of the common sense solutions is cutting off these tax breaks that are given to special interest groups. With respect to the land and the project that's going to be built out here, the company has already got the land tied up and is ready to get started on it. It's here in West Las Vegas, and we'll disclose that at the appropriate time. But thank you, Gene. I appreciate your comments.
You know, $716 billion, Danny, is from fraud, from waste, and from abuse. Now you know that.
Okay, Gene, if that's the case, Gene, the first question that should be asked is why have we had people in Washington, D.C. that are allowing $716 billion worth of fraud, waste, and abuse to continue year after year after year, and why have we still putting them back into office?
President Obama just been in office for 4 years. That's a good question. Why did the Bush administration for 8 years allow this to happen? You are absolutely correct. And you know the problem that we're facing now, you mentioned the job thing. Well, you know, Danny, the president has a job bill on his desk now, and you know it takes people in Congress to compromise. Now, if you're saying that I'm going to Congress and I'm going to fall in line with the Paul Ryans and everything like this, then, Danny, you know if you get there, we're not going to do anything because you know if you cannot work with those individuals across the aisle, you know there's nothing going to get done. That's how we get things done in the legislature. The Republican Democrats get together, and they sit down, and we don't always agree on it, but we work out something that's best for the state. And you're saying, well, the $716 billion that the Democrats is going to take out, you're not saying that it is from waste and it's from fraud and it's from stuff like this, and then the president is taking it from them and giving it to the seniors. You're not saying that. And you know
Gene, we got to get on to somebody else, but if you have a question, I'd love to answer it. You know, Gene, we've gone way back. I'm surprised by the tone that you'd have with me, and I think you know that I'm a reasonable individual that have tried to work with people across both party lines. I don't take positions that are just a Republican position and ones that are just a Democrat position. I understand the Democrats will try to make it look that way in this election, but that's the way politics work. You know, I'm a much more reasonable man than that. But let me just say one other thing. You know, when President Obama took office, he had Congress and 60 senators, and he could have passed anything he wanted to pass. If he had a jobs bill that he thought was going to work, he should have done it and passed it. Now, he did pass the stimulus bill, and as we saw, that failed. My question is, what new program would you pass in this next term if you get elected? And then the second question would be, why didn't you pass it then the first 2 years when you had all the votes that you needed in Congress? That's the real question.
Well, you know how politics works, Danny. You know that how things work back there. You absolutely know. And in the Senate, it's just like the immigration bill. The House passed it, 55 senators from the Democratic passed it. We still don't have an immigration bill. Why? Because those Republicans that voted against it was the one held it up. So you know how it works. But here's what I'm saying. You can do whatever you chose to do, but when you are running for office, speak the facts to the people. That's all I'm asking you to do. Tell the people, see, because the people don't really know like we know. Now, see, I know what you're saying isn't true, but you got people out there depending on what you say is to be factual.
It is factual, Gene. In fact, you first started off by saying that the stimulus came from was going to be reimbursed or was going to be given to oil subsidies, and it's not close. You've just admitted now it's fraud, waste, and abuse.
Come on now, Danny. You know that I said the money was taken from waste, fraud, which is from some of the oil subsidies. Now, that's where it is from. Now, that's what I said. So don't get on the radio and say, Gene, you said one thing. And that's the problem that's the issue that I had with you when you talk about the $716 billion. Then you know what the president has done. He got it from waste, and he's turning right back around, giving it to the seniors, and that's the reason why the seniors' cost is lower. But look, man, you have a nice day, like you say. There are other people who want to get in, man. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you, Gene. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Hey, man, listen, I don't dislike you, man. I'm going to let you know.
I hope
this
not.
time. No, I don't dislike you, but I just wanted to say, hey, man, look, if you're going to say something to the people out there, just even if he doesn't like it, just tell it the way it is, and they'll make up their own minds on where they're going to go. All right, thanks.
Well,
Thanks for your call,
Thanks,
Dan.
Gene. That's what we're trying
Gene.
to do today.
647-3688. We'll take another phone call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Miss Cunningham.
Good morning, Mrs. Bennett.
It's so good to hear from you.
Thank you.
The young man who spoke just a moment ago was telling the truth. I spoke to the president directly Wednesday morning, and the monies which they're talking about will go right back into the senior program. But that's not why I'm so happy you got Mr. Tarkanian. I got to work on his frame of mind. He made a statement he needs to clear up. It's an insult to our intelligence. Mr. Tarkanian, you stated that you would get the black vote because of football. Are you insulting our intelligence? We don't know, can't think any further than that. Now keep in mind, I came from the home of civil rights during the time of Thurgood Marshall. And I'm thinking every moment, please explain this because it's an insult.
Ms. Bennett, I appreciate that. You're right. If somebody made a comment like that, it would be an insult, but it was never made. As we talked about earlier in the radio show, maybe you didn't join us until after we got into that conversation. We talked about exactly what was stated, and we went through all that. And the comment that you stated that I made never was made. And but if you believe that, I can understand why you'd be upset. I hope you have a good afternoon.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you for your call, Mrs. Bennett. 647-3688 if you'd like to call in. We're taking phone calls. I'm sitting here with Danny Tarkanian and Frank Hawkins. And as you know, Danny is the candidate for the 4th Congressional District running against Stephen Horsford, and we're taking your phone calls. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Trish Duran. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Great. Hi, Danny. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
This is Trish Duran.
Hi, Trish. I know you very well.
Yes. One of the things I would like to say, and then I have one specific question, two actually. I've been in this community, been active for quite a long time, and to say that your family has done a lot for the community and your basketball camp is near. Are you talking about the camp that's in the back of Caesar's Circus?
First of all, not near the community. I said that it's near the district. We're talking about the one on Sahara and it's not behind Circus. It's Sahara and Rancho. Sahara and Rancho.
Okay, because we don't consider that near here, and I don't really. I know. Of course, we have a lot of history with your family, but to say that I cannot find anyone that has knowledge of anything that you or your family has done for any of these kids over here. And I just wanted you to answer specifically exactly what you have done. Now, there's two other questions I have. Another one is, how many acres is this new project going to require? Because I don't know of any large amount of acres around here that's available for construction unless you're going to eminent domain homes around here. Number 3 is the basketball that you claim or you're riding on a little bit on their coattail. I mean, you said it in the paper.
Hey, Trish, let me try to answer your questions.
And you say the basketball players how many are supporting you at this time? Because most of them I've seen at Senator Horsford's event.
Okay, so let's talk about, you've thrown out a lot of stuff. Most of it's inaccurate, but I'll do the best I can. I mentioned about my basketball academy being near the district, where I also said, and this is where it's nice to see how the Democrats can always take out the last portion of your statement. I said that a lot of people within this community participate in our academy. It's a nonprofit group. We work with young kids. We have, at one time, 340 kids per session, 3 sessions a year. There's been 10 years. Now, those numbers vary some. But we've had a lot of people within that community, within that facility that we worked with, and I believe people that have seen me work with those kids and understand what I'm trying to do to help them learn the life skills that you learn through playing sports, not the skills of playing sports, but we try to teach them the life skills that they learn through playing sports, will help me with anybody who's participated in that facility. Second of all, I won't even delve into what my mom and father have done for this community. If you don't think they have, that's fine for you too. The land, as I mentioned before, you may not have listened to me when I talked to Gene Collins, but I said the land is already owned or tied up at least by the company that is going to build it. It isn't new land, and it isn't eminent domain. It's private land, and it'll be a great project here. And once we get this thing going and we discuss it publicly where it's at and the company, I think everybody in this community is going to be thrilled. The bigger question is why isn't other things being done within this community to help create jobs? This is what's needed. I mean, we could talk about the basketball academy and twist words around, but let's get back to what's important. Why isn't more being done to help create jobs here in this community when jobs are so needed? We have the highest unemployment rate in the state of Nevada here, and something needs to be done. And that's what I've been trying to talk about while we've been on the radio here. But I know the callers keep wanting to go back to these sensational type of comments that they wrongfully attribute to me.
I think that question is mostly towards, did you ask the city council? Did you ask the commissioners? I mean, Senator Horsford is state. So did you ask them? First, did you start there to find out these leaders in this area, why are there no projects that are developing jobs?
But more importantly, I'm talking about what I'm going to do, and I'm talking about how I want to help create jobs, and that's where I'm going to keep the focus on. Furthermore, I'm really blessed to have a lot of the UNLV players support me. Freddie Banks, God bless him. He brought over several of his basketball players from Canyon Springs the other day that went out and walked door to door for me in 108-degree heat. I really am blessed to have the support of he and so many others. Larry Johnson, Moses Scurry, and several others are going to host a fundraiser for me on October 11th, and I would invite anybody to show up to that one too.
That's not true. I talked to those guys. That's not what they're saying. You need to check your facts, man. And I'm not going to let you get away with that on this black radio station. I'm not.
Tricia, I'm not going to argue with it. It's already done. Freddie Banks walked with us last week. Are you saying he didn't?
Okay, well, you know what? Where is the statement? Where is the picture? That's not what
we tweeted it out. Go back to the tweets for NV04. You'll see the tweet. In fact, you'll see them all in Tarkanian T-shirts, too. Let's get talk. If we can, I'd like to talk with Frank about some of the things. We only have about 15 minutes. Some of the things that we're working on together that he's helping to educate me that we think would, again, help this community. And we'll talk about positive solutions instead of, again, this partisan talk you hear from some of these callers.
Trish, are you still there?
Pardon me?
I said, are you still there?
I'm still there. I'm still here. I just wanted to clarify some of these statements before you can go forward. I think you should clean up some of the statements that are misrepresenting this community. And a lot of the kids that I don't know of any kids. Most of them went to the Doolittle camps and things. I don't know of any other ones that they went to. Unless it was just a few of them, but I'm just
Trish,
saying,
I'm sorry you haven't been by the gym, but come on by right after Labor Day. On Saturday, I invite you to come by. You can come by and see all the teams participating.
Okay, Labor Day, where is it?
Right after Labor Day, weekend after Labor Day. Our basketball academy, the one that you've been referring to now.
Oh, yeah, okay, you're talking about the one, okay, on Rancho, okay. I would love to see
We'll see you the Saturday after Labor Day there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trish, thanks for your call. 647-3688 if you'd like to call in. We're going to take another phone call. And I do have to say, I purposely went by the academy. It was about a week ago, and there had been a week-long camp for kids. It was free. Moses Scurry and a lot of the guys were there.
Moses Scurry, David Butler, Anderson Hunt, Larry Johnson. They held a free clinic, and they did such a great job with those young kids. And the great thing about that is they left UNLV 22 years ago, and they still know how important it is to give back to the community. We gave them the gym for free so they could use it and do that, and they came in and did the instructions for free. And, again, very thankful to all of them.
Let's take another phone call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, go right ahead.
Hi, this is Lauren Broadbent. I got a question for Danny. I guess you made the statement that we need to change our immigration laws. Is this correct?
So we need to change our INS laws to allow people who want to come in the country legally to get in here quicker, faster, and in my opinion, even cheaper so that they can do it the right way and fulfill jobs that are needed here in America. Yes.
Well, I'm unaware of all these jobs that we have in America.
Well,
I'll
I'll give you an example. If you want to ask a question, let me answer it. Up in Yerington, there is an onion farm called Perry & Sons, one of the largest onion farms in the whole country. And I met with him, as I do with most of the different business leaders within my district, because I want to get an understanding of the issues they're facing. And he said the biggest problem they have is the time-consuming, repetitive regulations they have to get legal workers to come in the country and work on his farms, because he can't get enough American workers to do it. So he gets legal immigrants to come in, but they have to go through the same process every year, go through the same paperwork, have the same delays, have the same costs. And he suggested that we do something where we could expedite this process. So that's where it came from, sir.
Okay. Well, I guess what my question is this. I was affected by job losses back in 2008, at the end of 2008. And the thing that I see is unemployment is extremely high in this country. I worked the construction field, and I've got a degree as well. But the thing that's really strange to me is I keep hearing politicians, both on the left and the right, saying that we need to open up our borders. Yeah. We've got, 12% unemployment in Nevada or in Las Vegas. I imagine it's probably even higher, about 20% in the black community. And I just can't believe that we don't have people in our own country that can fill these jobs. Maybe the employers aren't paying enough. You have people saying that Americans don't want to do this and Americans don't want to do that. Okay, I work construction now. I do whatever I can do to make a living. I'll be 60 in September. And I think that's just a lame excuse that we need to open up the borders. And I find it nothing more than pandering to a specific group of people.
I hope that you're not inferring that I said I want to have open borders, because I've never said that. In fact,
I didn't say open borders. What I said is, if you want to change the immigration laws, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the immigration laws. We've got 100,000 people a month coming into this country legally because we allegedly don't have anybody that's smart enough to take these jobs.
Well, again, I gave you an example of someone that is having a hard time with the process, but if you feel otherwise, I certainly appreciate it. Would love to sit down and talk with you about it if you want to. You can contact my campaign office and give me your thoughts, and I'm always open to try to understand both sides and come to the most reasonable solution.
Lauren, thank you for your call.
Thank you.
647-3688 if you'd like to call in. We're still taking phone calls.
Hey, Pat, can I make a couple comments?
Sure, go right ahead.
If not, we're going to run out of time. But I think from my perspective, and the business people and other community people that have been meeting with Danny, we have some concerns and some issues that we think are important, regardless of party, Democrat or Republican. Somebody mentioned the jobs bill. Well, I want to tell you, I read the jobs bill. I know the jobs bill. And I challenge any of them to tell me how the jobs bill is going to help everyday people in this community, low income, poor people, how it's going to help them. Mm-hmm. So we have talked to Danny about a few things. Democrat or Republican, it does not matter. I do not hear anybody, congressional race, Senate race, state legislative races, talking about how they are going to help those that have the most need. So, and for example, we raise issues with Danny about public housing. We think the income that folks have to live there should be increased. We believe, from a moral standpoint, from a family standpoint, from strengthening the family standpoint, that the public housing all over this country, something that the federal elected official can do, should increase the income of those folks living there and encourage the man to go back to the house. Not do like public housing all of this country has done, separate and divide the family. I think that helps strengthen all of our family. That's one of the things we have asked him, if he's elected or when he's elected, to do, to bring about a bill that addresses this issue and start the conversation. The other,
well, Congress's goal should be to reward, strengthen, and build families and encourage fathers to come home and lead their families. Stronger families will make a stronger America. And I'm going to work with Frank Hawkins and others, and we're going to try to change the current bill in there that disincentivizes parents to come back into the homes.
The other thing, Pat, hold on, because I have 5 or 6. The other thing is regarding minority business. We all know that from the new market tax credit standpoint, state of Nevada has never had an award of new market tax credits. If you remember, Ernest Fountain, New Ventures, a bunch of people marched and continue to try to win that award so that they can develop in the low-income census tracts. The money always has gone, never to Nevada. We have asked Danny, when he's elected, to sponsor a bill that creates new market tax credit under the same alignment as the low-income housing tax credits. Therefore, every state will have an award of tax credits. Now the state can administer the program and not have the federal government with its long arm dictating, which is hurt Nevada. And as much as, we have our share of elected officials, but we haven't gotten any tax credits. That's another thing that nobody's talking about on a federal level. We've asked him to do that, and he said that when he's elected, that he's going to carry that issue. And that is important because that helps Las Vegas companies, that helps people in this community, that helps over 50 or 60 different small businesses that New Ventures could have helped if they had an award. The other thing that we have talked about is this whole workforce employment. I mean, to me, it's ludicrous. You have folks training people for dead-end jobs. We see it every day. We have asked, from a business standpoint, if Danny or when Danny is elected, to change the bill to give the money directly to the employers, because they say they train. You can't convince me, no day, no way, no how, that it takes somebody 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, 1 month to learn how to make beds. Ain't possible. You can't convince me that somebody needs to go train and it takes them 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to learn how to wait tables, to learn how to wash dishes. That is crazy. Give the money to the people who have the jobs, because it doesn't matter if somebody says, I'm going to train you. When you come to work for me in my business, you have to learn my way. So why are we wasting the money? And we need to stop the dead-end jobs, because that's happening.
Let me take you back now. Where is this? Who's the third party? What money is it? Who's getting this designated money rather than the employee?
Well, the money goes from the federal government, right, to the state. The state workforce investments, right, and they award these monies to all of these different agencies. Nevada Partners being one, and many others. My question is, dead-end jobs. How many people in this economy have been trained, and we have spent a lot of money on training? Where are the jobs? As opposed to the federal government giving the money to the state, which is fine, and the state saying, if you are an employer, we're going to give you the money to hire and train.
Well, but there's a very important part of that equation that you have left out.
Wait, I'm listening.
There's more than just allocating it to a third party and it goes to the employers and the employees don't get it. As Danny was saying, we have the highest unemployment rate in the state. It's right here in this area.
I'm saying hire, let the employer, that's me, hire the employee as opposed to.
So you're saying that the employer is better equipped to train them for the job than the
third party.
Do you really believe that the employer is going to go to the extent that some of these programs, such as Nevada Partners, will go to, in terms of a lot of people? I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of people who lack more than just job skills. They lack an awful lot of skills. Okay. And programs such as Nevada Partners and other programs that are being funded through the Workforce Investment Act are teaching skills that grant you, maybe all of us teach our kids at home, but everybody isn't getting that. So they're getting more than that. I cannot conceive of an employer taking the time to teach you those kinds of skills as well as making the beds.
So I'm going to ask you a real simple question. You worked in the business. What else do they teach?
I can tell you what I taught.
Oh, no, I don't know what you taught.
Well,
I want to know what
worked in
they
the
taught.
business, and I taught what they told me to teach.
Thank you. Okay.
And the bottom line, Frank, is that there are people that need more than just the actual skill to do the job. They don't have. Some of them don't know how to dress for an interview, how to conduct themselves on an interview, how to interact, communications with coworkers, with the public, if that's who they're working with. There's a lot more to it than just making the beds. And it isn't just that kind of job. So if you believe an employer, I've yet to find an employer that will take the time to teach more than what that particular job calls for.
So are they teaching anything to get the people the job?
I don't know that they're teaching anything that gets people the jobs. I know, I'll put it this way. I don't know that the people are getting the jobs. Of course, the jobs have to be there, but you're not answering my question. I'm not saying that all of the agencies under the Workforce Investment Act are doing everything that they should. Mm-hmm. I'm simply posing the question to you. Do you believe the employers will take the steps and teach skills beyond what the job calls for?
Let me give you my own experience.
Okay.
And we've hired a lot of people, and the people come to us because we want to give a second chance, third chance, fifth chance, or whatever it is. Just because they went there does not qualify them anymore, make them any more qualified than before. My suggestion is, I've heard, I've seen, I know people that have gone through all of these programs and they still don't have jobs. What I'm saying is, if there are no jobs, the federal government through the state needs to go direct to the employer, because just because you put me in a program don't mean I'm gonna get a job. That's the problem. If we need jobs, people are arguing about jobs. So I challenge the fact that creating more job programs are creating dead-end jobs, because if you do not have a direct link to the employer, you're not going to be successful.
Well, if there's no need for the job program, then I need you and Danny to explain to me what is the purpose of the employer getting the money in the first place. Why not just hire the people, bring them in?
That's what I said.
I'm not understanding
That's
that.
what I said.
Why
go direct to the
would
employer.
there be any federal dollars going to that employer to do that?
But they do it now.
There is a need. The question is whether it should be done by the outside force or by the employer, who's going to be the actual person who hires the person. So you have a guaranteed job hiring once
Pat, they do that
done.
right now. You know that. They give the money to
absolutely.
you, and when I hire the employer, they say, well, you can do it on-the-job training. If it's on-the-job training, why don't you send them to me direct?
Well, if there's on-the-job training that also gives them added services that are being the clock.
I got one more point.
Okay,
I just
hurry up.
The other one is on the minority business, because we know the federal government has not upheld, regardless of whatever they say. We have asked Danny, when he's elected, to strengthen that law to basically say, if you have a federal contract, you are required to hire folks from the low-income communities. Census tracts. Thank you.
That's good. We certainly haven't touched on everything. We've got to do this again before the election, because I think those were some very important issues. Danny, thank you so much for coming in. I know it wasn't going to be easy, but I knew you could handle it, and I think it's important that the people hear from you directly, and hopefully we'll do it again.
Patricia, it was my pleasure to be on. You always have tough callers. The key thing is, if you really want to represent a community, you need to get out and talk to everybody, whether they're going to be friendly or not. And I encourage everybody running for office to be accessible so that you can let everybody know who's going to vote for you, where you stand on the issues. Thank you
so much. Thank you all for listening. Have a safe and happy weekend. We'll see you next Saturday.